This is my last project of the semester. Synthesis project. Balanced literacy is most important because it will be the end goal when teaching all the concepts I'm going to talk about. First, the Big Five of reading is part of balanced literacy and reading. It contains phonemic awareness, phonics, comprehension, vocabulary, and fluency. Phonemic awareness is the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate sounds and words. Students are going to learn this before they learn to read. It's how sounds and words work together. It improves students' word reading and comprehension, and it's going to help them learn to spell. Phonics is the connection between the letter and the sounds. The goal is going to help the students to quickly determine the sound of an unfamiliar written word that they're reading. For example, when I was with my student, he had a hard time with FR blends, but once he learned how to decode FR blends and learn what sounds FR blends made, he was able to figure out harder words that he did not know by sounding out those letters. Comprehension is the ability to interpret what is being read. So thinking within the text, the student's going to be monitoring and self-correcting as they read, solving words, maintaining fluency and summarizing what they read. When they think about the text, they'll be able to critique and analyze what the author meant. When they think beyond the text, they will be critiquing. No, they'll be referring to synthesis, which is adding new knowledge to their bank of knowledge. Making connection, which is text to text, text to word, text to self connection, and then also predicting. An example of this would be when I would introduce a new book to my student during one-on-one reading. I'd have them predict what was going to happen in the book by looking at the cover, or we would look at some of the pages and try to predict what would be next. Now, vocabulary is the knowledge of words and word meanings, and they will always be learning new vocabulary as they read. Fluency is the ability to read a text accurately, quickly, and with expression. There's 6 dimensions of fluency, but one important thing is that once fluency is not about speed, it's about also comprehending what they read. So they would use pausing, which would be guided by punctuation, taking pauses at periods or at the end of sentences and commas. Phrasing would be reading like you talk, not choppy or robot sounding, not word to word. Stress means emphasis on words to show meaning. An example of this was when I was teaching fluency with our students. I would tell them to read as if they were the character. Intonation would be the tone, the pitch, the volume. Rate is the pace they're reading, so make sure they're not reading too slow or too fast. That way they can comprehend what they're reading. And integration is how well they use the other 5 parts of fluency together that I just talked about. Next, we have types of reading. The types of reading would be guided reading, shared reading, interactive read alouds, and independent reading. Guided reading is going to be like a small group where reading promotes fluency. It will include an introduction to the story, which would be an overview. It would help the students activate schema or things the student already knows. Maybe talking about new vocabulary they might see as they read. Comprehension, like I mentioned earlier, is thinking about, thinking in and beyond the text. Teaching strategies, so how the teacher or the leader of the small group would help teach the group. Word work would be sorting things, working on things, working on blends or diagraphs or as they read. Then sometimes it has a writing activity just to make sure they understood what they read, maybe having them summarize at the end of the story, for example. Now, an example of this is we did all these guided reading lessons all semester with our students one-on-one, and this is what would have been included in all of our lesson plans. Now, shared reading is a split between teacher and student. The teacher mentors how to read for fluency. For example, we did this in my mentor teacher's classroom. At the end of the day, the teacher would read from a chapter book, just one chapter a day, and the students would sit and listen so they could uh, how hear or practice reading with fluency. Interactive read alouds would be when the teacher reads aloud to the students and the students just listen and then maybe discuss after the teacher's done. Uh, some of the vocabulary that they just heard, what was the plot, then they can infer and predict. Independent reading is just that. It's when the student is reading by himself, sometimes in a quiet place or off to the side, in the hallway, things like that. It also includes reading outside of school and also reading when done just for fun.